Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick here, dropping in on you. I'm going to be real quick. I just want to let everybody know that on April 8th, we are releasing book number 26. Right now, the most powerful book on elevation. It's entitled Transcendent, the remarkable ability to rise above the chaos to win in life. You do not want to miss this. This is by far my best installment on human performance. I am challenging you to rise. I am giving you insight on how to do it. Here's your chance to do it now. Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Rick dropping in on you. Hope everybody's having an unbelievable week so far. It's Friday already, man. Time definitely flies. Look, I'm not going to be long, so I'm going to get right to it. But you saw the introduction, book number 26. Like I said, it never gets old for me. It's always a blessing to get to this point where you've put your heart into a project and you're seeing the end result of a finished product come to bear. And so if you want to order the pre-order my 26 book, which officially releases on April 8th, get it for $25 now. When it releases, it'll be $34.95. Book number, like I said, book number 26. I think it is my most comprehensive installment to this point. So I'm excited about that. Also, if you have not registered for the Legacy Wealth Academy Masterclass, which is a 6 to 8 month course on wealth building, you need to sign up for that. Also, if you are interested in getting an online business started and you need a step-by-step guide, the 7-day online business launch course is something you need to check out. That link is in there as well. I want to get to this because I am taking a different approach to Focus Friday. I'm going to talk about wealth in the Black community, or the lack of wealth in the Black community, or poverty in the Black community, and why we consistently move in a certain area. And being that a vast majority of the people who listen either are currently Christians or at some point in time exposed to the Christian faith, I'm going to use scripture. If you are not a part of that, pay attention to the principles, because the principles are there. You got to understand there are a bunch of people who are in many ways defined or classified as atheists who have used the principles in the Bible to enrich themselves. So I want you to pay attention to this, because it's in the misunderstanding of a lot of things that are engaged in scripture that people lose sight of the power of what happens. And we tend to mystify practical behavior, and we are expecting things that simply are not, and we lose faith and we lose so much else. So I'm going to take you through this. Now, one of the things that I heard all the time growing up in an impoverished environment for the most people, we lived in an area where poverty was abundant. My grandmother's beauty shop and our church was in the Fifth Ward area of Houston, a place blatantly impoverished. And so all these things around, but yet we heard scriptures and we read scriptures consistently, like Proverbs 13:22, that says that the wealth of the righteous is stored, the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. And here's what I've learned. I want to give you this premise, and I want you to view everything that I'm going to share with you based on this. You cannot cure poverty with money. And a bunch of people are going to go, money is exactly what I need. No, poverty isn't about money. Poverty is about a mindset. And I'm going to teach you that. And I'm going to teach you what it means by these scriptures and why they have been falsely applied, erroneously applied. And that's why, if you are looking from a biblical perspective, if you're looking from a spiritual perspective, or if you're looking from an experiential perspective and you're expecting money to be the solution to your problem, you're going to always have a problem, even when you have money. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you why using scriptures. So Proverbs 13:22 says that And now what we have to understand is that's not the beginning. Something I always talk about a lot is the front end of that same scripture. The front end of that same scripture is that a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children, or a more modern version is a wise man leaves an inheritance for his grandchildren. And so then it says, but the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. Now, that's been misinterpreted forever to mean that the wealth of the wicked will be taken from the wicked and given to those who are righteous. Now, one of the things that I looked at is the difference between relationship and God and practical application and universal laws. Universal laws apply to anybody, whether they are quote unquote saved or not. And what we find is there are certain principles that go along with money. And first of all, the first thing that we have to see when we start talking about money is that money isn't the end game. Money is simply a means. And if we stop looking at money as a means and we start looking at it the end game, then money becomes the focus. What you find is poor people chase money. Rich people chase things. Wealthy people pursue ideas, passions, and purposes. Completely different. And you look at the results of the outcome. All right. Anything you're chasing all of a sudden becomes elusive because you've lost focus of it. Anyway, let's go into it. First thing is money will not solve poverty. Poverty is not a money issue. It's a management issue. And I'm going to show you here. It says in Luke 16:10, whoever can be trusted with little can also be trusted with much. And then it goes on to say, but if you cannot be trusted with little, you cannot be trusted and will not give you much. And then it goes on in verse 11 through 13. And I'm going to summate it here. It says, if you cannot be trusted with things that belong to someone else, and you cannot be trusted with little, who will give you your own? Now, and we're going to go to the probably the most popular story, and it's in Matthew, and it's the story of the talents. A wealthy man left on a long journey, and he gave one slave or servant 5 talents. Now, the word translated talents isn't talking about the talents that we look at now. That's why you got to be very careful when you're studying ancient text, whether it's in the Bible and it's scripture, whether it's an old ancient writing or whatever. There are certain hermeneutic principles that you need to practice. Contextual analysis based on the context, you get a certain definition. You also need exegesis, which is to be able to study it in its original language. And that's especially important when you're talking about Hebrew, Aramaic, or Greek. They are much more richer languages than the English language. And it's hard to find words that are applicable in every situation. And so you lose some in the translation. And so that's important. Also, prophetical environment. What was the message being delivered by the person who was speaking or by the person who was writing? What was the message to be delivered? What was that person trying to relate to those that were actually receiving it at that time? You got to remember, these things were written specifically in times and places to address specific things. And we're now trying to translate that into our reality and time now. And we need to understand that. So anyway, but here's the talents. The story of the talent is basically a master leaves home, leaves his servants or his slaves. One gets 5 talents, which is actually in the Greek talaton, and it's a measurement of something. It is a weight of something. In other words, it can be by implication money. So he gave one 5 talents. He gave another 2 talents, gave one talent. The one who had the 5 went and immediately went out and did business with it and doubled it. Same thing for the one with 2 talents. The one with 1 talent literally went and dug a place and put the money and hid it. When the master returned from his trip, he asked to reconcile. Let's settle up. The one with 5 came back with 10. He says, that's good. You were a faithful servant. Now I will make you rule over more things. In other words, you took what I left you and you brought it back to me. So I'm going to give you control over much more than I initially entrusted you with. The same thing for the second. The other one, he called him worthless. And the term that was used is a Greek term, paneros, degenerate, ill, diseased. In other words, you're not what you are supposed to be. You're operating at a level beneath the design. And anyway, he goes on and he says this. So what we're getting is in the understanding of this, that there's a mindset. and a behavior behind the accumulation of wealth. And there's a difference between a poverty mindset. There's a difference between how people who are rich, people who have an abundance of something, and people who are wealthy, people whose money completely works and multiplies itself for them. They are no longer working for it, it's working for them. They can literally sit down every day if they wanted to. Most people aren't, because they are driven by what? Purpose, passion, ideas, and things. They aren't pursuing money. They aren't pursuing things. They're pursuing ideas and purposes. They're literally they're using money to carry out their desires, their purpose, their aspirations, these new ideas. That's what they're doing. But I want to go back because I want to hurry up and get through this, but I want to give it to you. So then we go to Deuteronomy 8:18. It says, it is God who gives you the power to get wealth. And that is another thing that is consistently misunderstood. First of all, again, it's in Hebrew, and so it can be misunderstood. But in implication, the word power is crazy because it's chameleon, same as the lizard. And in this interpretation, what it does actually means is power is capacity, power is freedom of thought and ideas. In other words, it's the mind that possesses the abundance. It's the mind that possesses the wealth. The wealth isn't the money. The money is a means. There are people who get things done without ever using money. There are other people who have money and don't do anything with it. The money becomes what? Valueless, because it's not utilized for anything. Money is a means. It's not the end. It's not what you're trying to have. Money is simply a way of getting what you want. And so the mind has a way of saying, okay, if I can't get it this way, I'll get it that way. But the mind has to be freed to get outside of the box, use the capacity. And here's the other thing. The mind has an imagination. God gave us an imagination for a reason. And then God designed in us, in this imagination, this unbelievable mechanism within our thinking and our processing of our brain and our mind, that when we are able to imagine things at a high specificity and a high level of clarity, that the mind and the brain cannot distinguish between what is being imagined and what's being truly experienced. Why? Because then I can train myself to believe I have what I don't yet have, and then it changes my behavior toward it. In other words, you literally are writing the path of what you can have or cannot have by how you are currently managing your thoughts. Money is a management, and poverty, excuse me, is a management and mismanagement thing. Money is a management and mismanagement thing. I have seen situations in which a man made no more than $12 an hour his entire life, retired a millionaire. So, but you have to view it differently. See, the reason why the servant with the one talent was viewed as being foolish and worthless is because of the mindset. It wasn't, and here's the other thing that's interesting. It says that if you are faithful of a few things, I'll make you rule over many. If you're Christian, you know the scriptures. But what we don't realize is that the ruler in this parable already understood who he could trust and what he could trust them with. The one he could trust the most, he gave 5 talents to. The one that he knew, hey, he's done pretty good, I can trust him with this. And so you could say the wealthy minded person was the one with 5 talents. The rich minded person was the one with 2 talents. The poverty minded person was the one, I'm going to give it to you, and it's going to be just to show you that you don't know what to do with it. And this is why you won't have it, because at the end of the day, the one you buried and didn't do anything with, I took it and gave it to who? Well, now the thing that we have to understand, especially those who are of the Christian faith and hold to the thing, is this idea that because you're righteous, you get to have what's been laid up for you. That's the problem. It says that a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, but the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. And the idea is that at some point, God's going to take from the wicked and give to the righteous. That's not what that means. It means that it's stored up, that it means it belongs to you, but there are some things that you have to do in order to have it. And what you find in the principles of wealth is that God does not distinguish between those who are saved and those who are unsaved in the way that the universal law works, in the way of how wealth is distributed. Wealth is distributed to the one who can be trusted. Never was it said, because you're saved, I'm giving to this. Because you called me by my name, it says, because you can be trusted with it. You won't squander it, that I can count on it being multiplied while it's in your hands. See, the abundance is to be what? Multiplied. And if it can't be, think about people with a poverty mindset, win the lottery, and within a very short period of time, what? Broke again. Why? Mindset. It's not money. Money cannot cure poverty. Poverty is a mindset. Until you change the way you think. I see this all the time in what I do. I sit up and I show people, this is what you can do to have all that stuff you say you want. Here it is right here. And they'll tell me, I really would love to do it, but I can't afford it. But then I see you got $1,000 bag, a $1,500 bag. You went on a $1,200 trip, but you can't afford something that's going to put you in a situation where those trips won't even matter. You're sitting up wondering how you're going to pay off the trip. You're wondering how you're going to get your bills paid, and you're sitting up and you're spending money on things that you don't necessarily need instead of investing in things that can expand you, expand your capacity, and grow you, and you don't understand why. See, this is in scripture. Nowhere does it say it's because you're saved, I'm going to make you wealthy. It says, I give you the power to get wealth. To get wealth. I'm not giving you the wealth. I'm giving you the power to get it. How are you going to get it? You're going to take the ideas that I have flowing through your mind. There are literally 70,000 thoughts that flow through your subconscious every day that you're completely aware of. You have the ability to reach down in there and pull them, reject the ones that you don't like, because there's some negative and some positive ones flowing. Experiences and everything else is influencing it. But you have the desire to say, I'm going to stop thinking with a poverty mindset. I'm going to start thinking with a mindset. And what you're doing is, as you're setting the standard of your thought process, says, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity into the obedience of Christ. What am I doing? I'm saying I'm managing my thinking. If I want to manage poverty, if I want to manage money, if I want to manage my success, I start with managing my thinking. I change the way I'm thinking. If I don't like what I'm getting, I can never change my life without first changing my thought processes. How am I viewing it? How am I seeing it? How am I talking about it? How am I allowing it? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Poor people spend, get very little of any type of tangible value of what they spend. They spend symbolically, they spend emotionally. Rich people buy things. They buy things, meaning some of the things they buy have value to it, but they still are in a buying mindset. Here, wealthy people invest and grow. Most of what they buy will actually expand in value. And then those things that don't expand are a part of the passion. The passion may be something as simple as traveling, but it's a passion. And the passion can be afforded, and it doesn't register as a liability. Why? Because the money is it is multiplying itself. It is something that is being grown and expanded. The mindset is assets over liabilities. The mindset is, I'm going to put it in a place where it can grow. I'm going to be the one with the 5 talents. I'm going to go out and immediately do business with it. That's real huge in a day in which you are operating primarily as Americans with fiat currency. The US dollar has nothing backing it. So when I sell something of value or I get money of value, I need to immediately be doing something with the money to put it in a place where now I have something of value that isn't in its liquid state currency. Why? Because the value of the dollar is already crap, and it's constantly being lower. So holding on to it and burying it in the sand is not saving it. It's watching it deteriorate to nothing. So I have less than when I started. But if I take it and I immediately, that keyword immediately, went out and did business with it and doubled it, then if I immediately go out, what it's also telling you, it says immediately went out and did business with it. What? Investing in business is an investment. It's a wealth building mechanism. In other words, a lot of people's wealth is invested in their business affairs, not in what's in the bank account, but what's in the capacity of the business to be produced. We have to understand that. That's where we're losing ourselves. Another thing, poor people talk about money. Rich people talk about things. Wealthy people talk about ideas. The idea, why is the term idea keep popping up? Idea is associated with an internal mechanism of purpose. Your ideas are going to flow around your gifting. It's going to flow around a natural urge and yearning inside of you. You're here for a reason. You're here to do something exceptional. You're here to do something extraordinary. You're here to do something phenomenal. And what you don't want to do is squander the opportunity. And what you don't want to do is leave yourself in an area of squeezed or marginalized capacity, because you're not optimizing the opportunity. God gives you the capacity, the ability, the power to get wealth. Chameleon, it gives you the power to be able to evolve in your thinking, change, chameleon, to be where you need to be. And what you have to understand is being righteous, following all the principles, does not qualify you for wealth. If you are a Christian, it maybe qualifies you for heaven, but it doesn't qualify you for earthly wealth. And there's nothing inherently wrong with wealth. It's what you do with it. But here's the problem. Wealth is about stewardship. That's all the parable of the talents is about: stewardship. What are you doing with what you've been given? And people say, well, am I supposed to build wealth and I'm making minimum wage? I guarantee you, if you look at the average person who is making minimum wage, they have absolutely no room to be squandering. And I guarantee there's some things they're buying that don't need. Take that $2 that you're spending on something you don't need and buy you a fraction of some shares or something in something, and do that every week when you get paid. $2, $5, $10. I guarantee you have it, because you're blowing it on something. Everything ain't going on bills. Not for the average person. They're buying, I gotta have this, that Coca-Cola, whatever it is, that little sinful passion that you keep feeding every week, talking about that. Some of you going to the club, leave the club alone. Some of you can't stay out at the shoe store. Stay out for a year and look what'll happen. What it is we've got this mindset that I have to have X amount of dollars before I can ever play the wealth game. No, you have to have a mindset to achieve wealth before you have the money to play the game. It's telling you big as day. I'm not going to give you something that you haven't shown me you have the ability to properly manage. You haven't shown me that you can be a steward over more. You can't manage what you have. You haven't effectively managed what you have. And effectively managing what you have doesn't mean I pay all my bills. If you go back to that parable, the parable says, to one he gave 5, to one he gave 2, to one he gave 1. The one with 5 went out and did something to double it. The one with 2 went out. The one with 1, what? Hid it, thinking they were saving it. He said, and why did you do it? Because I've known you to reap where you don't sow. In other words, he said, you are able to get money in places where you haven't invested. Why? He's executing power. It doesn't mean that he's evil. It means that he's learned how to execute the power of wealth. And you'll find a lot of people who are poor, and one of the first things you'll hear them say about wealthy people is they probably got it through illegitimate means. Why? Because that validates them not having to practice what it takes to be there. I don't have to make the sacrifices of developing wealth. I don't have to make the changes. I can just simply say people who have money are evil. I know poor people who are wreaking absolute havoc. I know wealthy people who are blessing people beyond measure. Evil doesn't have a socioeconomic class. It's a state of being, and you can be it in anything. Money simply amplifies who you are. If you're a good person, if you're a God-loving person, if you love people, and you want, money is going to give you the opportunity to express that at a greater level. If you're dark and you look to suck the life out of things, money's just going to put you in front of other situations and opportunities to do it. Money is a means. It's not the designated defining element and component of your life. It doesn't determine who you are. Being wealthy doesn't make you a better person. You are a better person regardless, but you have a level of responsibility to God, to yourself, to your family, to optimize your capacity given to you by God to get wealth. So when I sit up and I create these things, I'm creating them to show you, hey, look, you got to start somewhere. That's not going to be this magic downfall or overflow of something that's going to come out and all of a sudden you're going to have. Here's what I can tell you. In those instances where something happens, you go to Vegas and you hit big at the crack table or whatever, and you come home with an extra 10,000 you didn't have. Watch how fast you go through it because you haven't developed the wealth mindset. You're still operating from a poverty mindset. You go out every week and buy up lottery tickets and never win. Then all of a sudden you hit, and now you're sitting on $1 million. Watch how fast you run through that $1 million and have nothing to show for it. Why? Because you're still operating from a poverty mindset. Money cannot solve poverty. You have to change your mindset. One of the big things that I'm teaching in this course is the mindset, the psychology behind it, the thought processes that go behind it. What's the difference? One of the things that you have to do if you want to achieve something in life is you got to look at the people who have achieved it. And you got to ask yourself, what do they do differently than I do? What is their self-talk like? What thoughts do they consistently entertain? How many books do they read? What type of books do they read? What type of people are they around? Let me tell you something. What you tend to find in this world is because energy tends to resonate with energy, and energy is a connectivity or an expression of emotions experienced and lived. So in other words, the energy you emit will literally attract you around people. So you tend to find people who are in the same spaces around each other because they are drawn to each other. Their energy is accepting of one another. But here's the thing. This is a horrible thing for people who are operating in low frequencies. Why? Because nothing in the low frequency compatibility is going to produce the catalyst for you to come out of that thing. Let me say it a different way. Two broke people do not make for a great relationship. And I'm not talking about marriage. I'm talking about friendships. I'm talking about camaraderism. I'm talking about you have to have a mindset in which you are looking for someone to connect with that has already experienced what you're trying to experience. You can't always want to be the big fish in the small pond. You got to be willing to be the guppy and get out of that small pond, get into that lake, get into that river, get into that ocean. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be scarier, but it's going to be an exposure to the type of people, the type of things, the type of ideas and behaviors that you need in order to have the things that you desire to have. So again, when it says that the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous, it doesn't mean that at some point God's going to extract that from them arbitrarily and give it to you. What it means is that when you are prepared to do the things that are necessary, that the doorways will be open for you to accumulate that wealth, to actually get that wealth. And there are ways to do that. There are absolute ways to do that. But what are we teaching ourselves? What are we practicing? What is the mindset? What is our conversations about? Are we pursuing a greater purpose, an idea, something that we can literally hang our hat on? Because I'm going to tell you something. If your mind works, you aren't broke. You have a cash flow problem. You have a thinking problem. You have a bunch of things, but you're not broke. If your mind works, if you're not suffering from some mental illness to where your mind doesn't function in natural linear thought and processes, then you haven't accessed the idea that has the value that takes you to the next level, because you're one idea away from having all the money you could ever want. Now, it doesn't mean that it happens overnight when you get the idea. The idea is the platform. The idea is the foundation. On that, you start to build, you start to grow, you start to develop, you start to become. See, the idea is the blueprint. Now, the blueprint requires a certain way of thinking, a certain way of behaving, a certain level of patience, a certain level of persistence. And then when you move through those things, you start to achieve things and do things that you never thought. But what you can't do is sit around thinking, because I'm righteous, at somewhere I'm going to be blessed. And all I have to do is be righteous, because the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. You misunderstood it. You need to be able to exegete. You need to be able to use isagogics. You need to be able to use a bunch of different principles. You need to understand prophetical environment. There's so many things you need to understand when you're looking at and you're reading this to understand what was meant at the time that it was written. And what was meant was, hey, look, a wise man, there's the thinking element. A wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, but the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. A wise man is doing the things that need to be done to ensure that multiple generations beyond him are going to be cared for. But the wealth of the wicked is stored up, not held in place in escrow and given, but stored up. In other words, it's always accessible when properly pursued. But chasing money will hardly ever end up with you having it. Chasing purpose, chasing an idea, chasing a desire to do something exceptional, extraordinary beyond what it is you're capable of doing now will put you on a path that will allow you to pursue it, even in moments in which you don't see the financial benefit. But the financial benefit, if you establish a position or situation in which you bring value to the table, money comes with the value. If you find a way that you can bless people, you can enrich people, you can encourage people, you can empower people, you can motivate people, you can help heal people, whatever it is, there's value in that. And there's value in that. There's money in that. Your job is to become the person who changes lives, the person who touches lives, the person who enhances situations, the person whose presence brings about something greater. Then you write the check. And it's a process. This is not magic. You don't snatch your finger and say, I've arrived and you've got it all. It's about evolving into something better. It's about building. The man that I told you about, John Crowley, $12 an hour his entire life, retired a millionaire, put his kids through college, paid off his house, $12 an hour. He was a parking lot attendant. But here's the thing. God gives you the power to get wealth. He is working as a parking lot attendant, happens to be working in the financial district. The people who are parking in his parking lot are money managers, stockbrokers, financial advisors, all of this stuff. And so he's just hitting them up as they walk by. Hey, how's it going, John? It's going good, man. What's going on? Give me a tip. And, I told him, hey, do this, and do this. He'd sit down and read and research. And this is before the internet. He'd read and research it, say, okay, it sounds good. He'd do it. Now, he could easily say $12 an hour, taking care of my wife and 3 kids. I can't afford on $12 an hour to do that. The truth is he couldn't afford not to. And he understood that. Different mindset. Different mindset. What are you putting into? What are you investing in? Not just in money, in your mind. What are you investing your time in? What are you investing your energy in? What are you investing your thoughts in? What are you giving attention to? All these things are part of the abundance equation. Whatever you focus on, you feel. This is Focus Friday. Whatever you focus on, you feel. If you focus so heavily on the poverty and the lack of money, it's always going to be a lack of money. Because by the time you get your hand on a little money, you got to go back and deal with all the things that money couldn't take care of when you didn't have it. And you're not looking at what you need to build for the future. You're constantly living in recovering the past. You're going to have to change your thinking. You're going to have to get out of that mindset. Whatever you focus on, you feel. You start focusing on your future. You start focusing on being a better person. You start focusing on growing. You start focusing on being a person of value, bringing value to the table in any situation you move into. All of a sudden, you now are in a place where you start to seek people who recognize your value. And one of the things you're going to have to immediately do is get out of the circle of the people you're in. Because if you're in the circle of nothing but broke people, they can't see the value in you. Because the only thing that they see value in is in the money they need to pay the bills. You got to get around people who can recognize the value in you, who can see that even though he doesn't have a penny in the bank, even though she doesn't have a penny in the bank, she is wealthy. Why? Because the idea she possesses will bless many. The passion she has will heal many. and on and on and on. You got to understand that you are not here empty. God put something on the inside of you in the design of what you would become, in the design of your purpose. There's something inside of you. It's often been referred to as a gift. In the same book of Proverbs says that your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. Your gift will make room for you means that it will expand your territory. It will expand your opportunity. It will expand your possessions. It will put you in front of great men. What does that mean? That people that will be able to open doors for you that you could not open yourself, that will sit up and be able to create opportunities for you. You will literally, by the way of your own possessed gift, have value in this world. But you got to understand something. Stop chasing the money. Start chasing the idea. The idea is where the real true abundance is. Why are you here? You're not here to just survive. You're not here to be in survival mode. You're not here to just exist. You're here to make a statement so emphatic, so impressive that it represents God well. That's how you evangelize. If you are a person of faith, no matter what faith you claim, you evangelize God by presenting the power of God in the way you live your life. This doesn't mean everything in your life goes well. What it means is that even in the most darkest times, people are looking at you and going, how are they handling it with such composure? Because you see something beyond the moment. You're not caught up in the circumstance, which is momentarily. You see the purpose in your life playing out beyond the moment, and you're not frightened. You're not in a place of predominant fear. You understand that if I stay the course, if I push through, something great is about to happen. I'm about to be elevated. I'm about to graduate. I'm about to be promoted. I'm about to go to a place that I've never been before, and it's within my control to be able to do so. These are the things that we are going to have to be able to learn if we're talking about true wealth. Money is one part of the equation. And if we don't have the right view of money, we'll never, ever be able to manage it and control it. It will always control us. And if it's controlling us, then we are poverty stricken no matter how much money we have. It's the mindset. I hope that I was able to share something with you. I hope that you were able to take something from it. Again, I encourage you to get book number 26. Pre-order it. The link is in there. Also sign up for the Legacy Wealth Academy Masterclass. It's only 4 more days before it goes back to full price. Right now it's under $1,000. And this is the most comprehensive wealth building course there is. And I know so because I did the research and I built it. I took from everything that was out there, put it in one place, got the licensing for the things I needed the licensing for so I could legally do it. And I put it all in one place. You're going to hear lectures for some of the top investors. You're going to hear lectures from money masters. You're going to hear lectures from economists. You're going to hear lectures from people who started with zero and are doing things together and how they did it. You're going to have every mechanism of wealth building that is out there. And then you're going to learn how to use your mind to create those things that don't exist to build wealth. All of this stuff is possible, but it starts with a shift in your thinking, an ability to see value where the average person doesn't see it, and be willing to invest in that. And if you can't do that, you can talk about it all day long. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing your time. But ultimately, nothing good will be withheld from you. The question is, are you willing to go the distance necessary to have it? On that note, I'm going to get ready to get out of here. As I always say, I live my life on full so that when I leave this place, I die on E. That's my challenge to you. Don't take your potential to the grave. On that note, I'm out. So again, thanks again. You guys have an unbelievable day. Melanin A1, you are more than welcome. I hope that it really, truly blessed you. Share it with others, subscribes to hear more. But whatever you do, examine where you're at. Ask yourself, are you doing what you should be doing? Are you thinking the way you should be thinking? Are you talking the way you should be talking? Are your actions in alignment with the things that you say you desire in this life? And you're going to get out of that true examination and that honest assessment the things that you need to move forward. Now you must find the path, access the resources and the assistance necessary to make it happen. But it all begins with you being honest with self. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable remainder of your day.